listening to Cowboy Logic with Jason Forby, a message of grace and hope.
Is everybody all right? Yeah, all right. How do we win, right? How do we win? So we've been using the backdrop of the Old Testament story, right? The Old Testament is like types and shadows or pictures or kind of secret hidden thing of what we have in the new, right? It's like it's revealed, you got to dig for it. And so we've been using the picture of the Hebrews getting delivered out of Egypt, right? We all know the story. Moses and the burning bush, go down there, tell Pharaoh, let my people go, right? So the Hebrews, they have been slaves in Egypt for 400 years. That's a long time, right? It's long enough that their frame of minds have been affected. You know, it's a long time to where by generationally now it's had an impact on the way their minds work, on the way their hearts work. And so 400 years they were in Egypt. Then all of a sudden they get delivered, and so God says, Moses, go down there and get them out, and we're going to take them into the promised land, right? Well, the will of God was for them to be in the promised land, to live in the promised land. It was a way of life that he had planned for them. But they did without that way of life for 40 years as they wandered around in the wilderness, right? And so we've said now for several weeks, how do we win? So we're talking about the promised land, right? What does the promised land represent? And religion has made it to where we've pushed the promised land off into another time frame, right? We've said all these songbooks we have, all these songs talk about, oh, can't wait to cross that river and go into the promised land. And we've thought that the promised land is heaven. And as long as we think the promised land is heaven someday, then it's always someday and it's never today, right? That's a lie. The promised land is not a representation of heaven. The Jordan River that you say we want to cross the river and all that, it is not a picture of death from here, physical death, and then you get to go to heaven someday. And so I'm just submitting to you that the promised land is not a picture of life someday. It's a picture of life that the will of God is for us to be experiencing now. It's a new covenant life. It's a life in Christ, right? And so until we say, you know what, it's for today, we'll never experience it today. It'll always be someday. And so we're no longer looking at it as someday. We're looking at it as today. It's right now. That's why people can be healed. You don't have to wait to get to heaven to be healed. You can be healed now. You don't have to wait to heaven to be blessed. You can be blessed now. You don't have to wait for heaven someday to experience victory. And I know we haven't always seen that and we haven't always known that. It hasn't happened every time for us. Why? Because we didn't know. Because religion's a lying thief. If you think I'm bold about it, good. Because I'm tired of seeing people losing. I'm tired of seeing people doing without the will of God because of all this 400 years of religious mindset that we've been living in, and we're wandering around the wilderness when it's the will of God for us to go now. So I'm thinking about the reasons of some of the reasons now, right? What some of the rules to experience promised land living now, and how come we don't sometimes. And so your heart and your mind's been programmed by Egypt and wilderness and all this stuff, and if you don't hush your mouth, I can't produce this miracle, right? And then be careful who you talk to and tell about it, and everybody's talking stuff and all that, right? So rule number 1, no talking. No talking. Why is that? Jason's interpretation would be because you've been slaves for generations. Your unbelieving selves have wandered around the wilderness for 40 years now. And if I don't get you to get your unbelieving wilderness wandering mouth shut, it's going to be hard for God to produce this miracle for us, because God doesn't do anything apart from our cooperation. And he says, if you don't be quiet, rule number 2, becoming one body. If we all got the same language and the same heart and the same word going about any situation, I don't care what it is, you name it, we can change any situation. Rule number 3, how to win. This is really deep. Want to. And I know you're thinking now already, well, duh. Who in the world doesn't want to? You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how many people don't want to win. And you think, well, why in the world would somebody not want to win? It's hard for me to imagine now, but really, seriously, it's like, why would somebody not want to win? Why would there be somebody else that you wouldn't want to win? Why? Because you don't know what love is, or you don't love someone, right? And so I think, why would somebody not want to win? Because intellectually, in our minds, we could all say, I could send out a survey or whatever, say, who likes to win, right? Everybody would say, well, yeah, we like to win. But my intention this morning is to go deeper than just our intellect that says, yeah, oh yeah, we want to win, because there's been so much junk put in us that our head can say yes to that question the whole time our heart is sabotaging everything that we... Come on, that's what I'm going to cut that thing off today. And I don't mean just want to with your head, because we'd all agree to that. Want to with the thing that's actually producing in us and sabotaging us without us even realizing it, right? You got it? So here's how we're going to get our hearts free. And we're starting to understand this. We're grace people, right? We consider ourselves grace people, but, you know, whatever that looks like, I don't know. There's never an end to the road of where grace can take us. And so we now understand that grace, like all that we sang, debts are canceled. We get to live in the good things of God, even above what we deserve, right? We don't deserve the good things, but we get the good things anyway. And so that's all true. I like that. But I want to take it even deeper to say that let's say that grace is even deeper than that, to the degree that what I deserve or don't deserve is not even relevant or on the table or even up for discussion. Come on, that's deeper than, because you could say, well, that God healed me even though I don't deserve it, and your focus could still be that I don't deserve. That's still self-centered. What this new covenant deal, that what grace really is, to go even further into the thing, is to say that the goodness of God and God's heart for me and all that He has in store for me, my behavior, my actions, my deserving or not deserving is irrelevant. It's not even connected whatsoever. Come on, you got it? You got, some of you will remember my little Granny Sue. She used to sit right over here. She's no longer with us physically, but my little Granny Sue, Granny, she thought I was it. Like every time she'd come after church, she would say, that was the best thing I've ever heard. You know, my grandpa, he'd get on her my whole life. I mean, it wouldn't matter. Me and my boys, we could come in the middle of the night. We've been off rodeoing or doing who knows what. She'd get up in the middle of the night and fix us pork chops and fried potatoes and biscuits and gravy. I'm talking about get the whole works. In the middle of the night, she'd get up and do it, you know. And it's like, it never entered her mind what we might have been doing while we were even getting in the middle of it. It never was a factor. Come on, you get what I'm saying? My grandpa used to say, Sue, you're spoiling that boy. She'd say, it ain't spoiling if he deserves it. Here's what I'm saying. The way she loved me was her actions and her heart towards me had zero to do with my performance. Zero. It was not factored. It never entered her mind, well, does he deserve this or not deserve this, or how's he been acting, or has he been doing pretty good lately, or what? Zero factor. It never entered her mind. It was not on the table for discussion. It was just her heart for me. Had zero to do with what I deserved or not deserved. Come on, you get what I'm saying. I'm saying that was just a small picture of the love that God has for us and the will for Him. And we've been so messed up in all this religious stuff that the minute we think about the blessings of God, we start measuring ourselves and we say, well, how's so-and-so, you know, or what? Come on, it's a factor. Come on, you with me? It's a factor. Our minds automatically go there when we think about, well, I don't know. Is it God's will for me to be healed? I don't know. How am I? We immediately, our minds go to measuring ourselves. and to see how we're doing. And we think our performance or how we've been doing or what we have done or not done has been a factor in that deal. And it is not a factor. This promised land living, you ready? You know when they got in the wilderness and they're getting ready to go into the promised land, and they said, okay, we're going to send over 12 spies. Remember the story? So 12 spies, they go over and spy out the land, and it's sure enough good. They said, they come back carrying a cluster of grapes. They had to put it on a pole and carry it between two men. Land flowing with milk and honey. I mean, it's sure enough a good deal over there. But you know what they did? They come back, and 10 of them said, oh no. So they said this, it's sure good land, but we're not able. We're like grasshoppers in our own sight and in their sight. That's what they said. In other words, we're measuring ourselves and we don't measure up. And because we're still measuring ourselves and we don't seem to measure up, then we're not able to go in and possess and live in the land that God has intended for us. Come on, you got it? This new covenant life, promised land living, it's like this is the grace of God. The new covenant is the covenant of grace. It's saying, look, the heart of God is for you, and your measuring and your qualifications and your doing and not doing is not all debts canceled. It's not on the table. Stop letting your mind go to that. You're no longer under the law. Do you know under the law, it was all about you do and don't do, and you measure, and at least once a year you kind of take let's take inventory and see how we're doing. Oh, you got to kill a dove. Oh, you got to kill a bull. Come on, it's all about what you do or don't do. That's the old covenant. God himself said, I found fault with that covenant, because it was based on you and your performance. I'm going to come up with a new covenant, and I'm going to cut a covenant between me and myself, my son, and in this covenant, I'm going to put you in the thing, and because the covenant's not actually struck with you, you can't do anything to affect the covenant. The new covenant is not about you doing and not doing. The new covenant is about him and what he's already done. Come on, you got it? In fact, he's saying under this new covenant, you're no longer being measured. Under the new covenant, it's not about whether you're qualified or not. You're just automatically qualified because you're in. It's who he is. It's what he's accomplished. It's what he's done. In fact, he took his report card, put my name at the top of it, turned it into heaven, and said, from now on, if that boy of mine needs anything, you take my measurements. He's to never be measured again. I don't even want his mind going to the place, well, am I qualified or am I disqualified? Irrelevant. Granny's fixing pork chops. Come on, you got it? Does anybody, hey, do you need some life today? Do you need some healing today? Do you need some blessing today? Do you need some victory today? Do you need some answered prayer today? Do you need some encouragement today? Do you need some strength today? Do you need some peace today? Do you need some answers or some understanding today? Guess what? It's yours, and you're qualified for it because he said so, and it's his heart for you, and he's not taking any measurements from you about whether you're good enough for it or if you've done enough for it. Irrelevant. It's his heart for you. What would it have done to my granny's heart if in the middle of the night she got up, put the stove on, started getting that gravy stirring? I said, no, Granny. No, I won't let you do that for me. I'm a no good worm. I'm just a sinner. What would that have done to her? It broke her heart. She'd have been upset if she didn't get to do for me like that. Come on, what about the heart of God? Think about the heart of God right now, of all of the good that he has for us that we've resisted, that we've not experienced yet. I want that. I want that thing cut off me, don't you? I want to say, I don't want it's subconscious really. Come on, because we spent so long in Egypt, it's become our identity in our subconscious. We've been in that religious thing so long that you ask anybody, it doesn't matter if you've been in church or not, you've been affected by this mindset, this religious thing that you think it's like, what does it take to be a good guy? What does it take to get to heaven? I seen a video one time, a guy went around the street asking people, taking a survey, well, what does it take to get to heaven? Well, be a good guy, or be, don't slap your neighbor, all this stuff. Every answer was something about you and your performance. I'm just telling you, it's a mindset. We've been in that thing for so long now, we haven't, and we don't even realize it. I'm after that mindset today. I'm going to cut the cord on that deal, and our hearts are going to be set free. And this subconscious thing that's been sabotaging us, even though our head might know the right answers, it's the love of God. And He wants us blessed, and He wants us living in the promised land, and He's made a covenant, and He's made a way to where you and your performance and your qualifications have zero to do with it. Now, I don't know about for you, but for me, that's really good news. You know, really, there's only two options under the law. If you keep it, which you haven't, but if you keep it, you now have pride because you did it. If you don't keep it, now you're guilty and you have condemnation because you didn't. So the only two options in the old covenant is pride or guilt and condemnation. Neither one go good. It's only in this new deal. Your actions and your behavior is irrelevant to the deal. It's like it has nothing to do with it. I'm going to cut them out of the deal so that my heart can be as good to them as I want to without them having to be qualified for it. That's better news than you're acting like, but I was just saying it's the heart of God. Now I'm going to get my heart and mind out of that thing to where it's cut off from me. Now it's no longer, my mind no longer goes to, well, do I deserve it or do I not deserve it? Come on, you guys with me? We need this. We want this, don't we? You think, who in the world doesn't want to be blessed? Everybody in their head wants to be blessed, but your heart's been sabotaging you.
Please follow and share this message. And for more information, visit srcowboychurch.com.